All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. Boomstick! Boomstick! Primitive screwhead. Boomstick! Primitive screwhead. Boomstick! Listen up.
Welcome to
Ash
versus
Evil Dead
versus
Bubba
versus
Catfish,
baby. Yes, groovy
Catfish.
Season 3, Episode 9, entitled Judgment Day of Ash versus Evil Dead. I can now officially say it. The penultimate episode of the series, Ash versus Evil Dead. We had some inklings the last few weeks, but it was finally announced. And then tonight, of course, as they previewed next week's episode, they said on the series finale. So this is also the penultimate episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead vs. Bubba vs. Catfish. So I am your host, Catfish. You can hit me up at CJGman67 on Twitter. And for 2 or maybe 3 last times, my compadre in this recapping celebration of Ash vs. Evil Dead is Bubba. Bubba, how can the fans reach out to you?
Guys, you can find me on Judgment Day, Earth Day, every day at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube.
Ooh, that's a lot of good places. Well, let's get right to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot to go through, Bubba. What was your rating for tonight's episode, the penultimate episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead?
I went very high last week.
You did?
I've been rather bullish on this season as compared to you. And so I want to know your ranking, but just to get mine out of the way, I give mine 9 double C's out of 10.
Double C's?
Creepy cellulars. Brandi's got to get on a different plan. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can I taste you now? Yuck. Creepy cell phone puppet. Loved it. The episode wasn't, kind of like these last couple of weeks, wasn't filled with hilarious lines or hilarious gags, but what it was filled with was rising stakes, building storylines, reaching what you think are crescendos. I really was just wrapped up and along with these characters we've grown to love. 9 out of 10. I'm heartbroken that the show won't continue, but there is a good chance this is going out on possibly a series high. This is great.
I agree with you. I mean, I think a lot of things happened tonight. It would be, now they've retconned Ruby a few times, but it would be hard to believe that after what happened tonight that Ruby would be able to come back. So, Ruby, who's been in the show for 3 episodes, this was her double S tonight. Yes, 3 seasons. This was her double S.
Wait, double S?
Swan song.
Aww.
Now, Bubba, I know a lot of our listeners are sports fans.
Yeah.
And they're probably aware that there's stuff you can buy when you go to a game. And it's a little hand, big foam hand that you put over your hand that says like number 1 or go team or whatever. And they call those foam fingers, even though it's a total hand.
Right.
So I'm going to give this, of course, 9 double P's for phone fingers for tonight's episode.
9 out of 10, Catfish. That's very high.
I agree with you that even though the signature fun wasn't there, that they are just steamrolling towards an exciting end. They're not messing around here. Could have used a touch more humor, but we're rounding towards home very quickly, and so there's a lot to do, and they do quite a bit in this episode. So before we break down the episode, though, you know, we have been doing this for 3 years for the Double L's.
Double L's?
Yeah, the loyal listeners.
Oh, them.
Yeah. And we've getting lots of feedback every week, lots of love every week. And so some of that feedback is very detailed, and also, I mean, it's almost like one of our Double L's is sitting on our shoulder whispering smart stuff to us so we can whisper it to the other listeners. So let's break down. Luckily, we did this podcast a little bit later than we've been in the last few weeks, and so we got some great feedback from loyal listener Scott Pike.
As well as the Uncle Q and SMH 9000. Let me just jump into some.
Do it.
The Uncle Q had a question for us, Catfish. That's at the Uncle Q on Twitter. They ask, do you think showrunners had 2 versions of the final episode depending on the verdict? Meaning if they came back 1 version of the final episode, or if they were being canceled like they've been canceled, a 2nd version. He says, I hope they've been listening to hashtag Writer Bubba Gives Notes. Oh, so what do you think? What do you think, Catfish?
My answer to that is based on not on the show, but things that we'd heard about the show. And that was that episode 3, they really wanted to wrap it up to have an ending if they weren't going to have a third one. They probably had a pretty good idea that viewership wasn't great in season 2. There was a delay. So they probably had an idea that there was a decent chance this would be the last season. So I would think that they didn't bother to shoot 2 different things, that they thought, okay, so let's wrap it all up. The way I almost felt it was wrapped up last season. I mean, really, honestly, except for kind of Ruby hanging around, it really could have been wrapped up at the end of last season. Ash triumphant, everything was kind of wrapped up last season. I felt like they would just do that again this season, and then if they needed to do something else, they would have just played with something else.
I agree with you, Catfish. It seems highly unlikely that they have 2 different versions of the entire episode, but just because of the infamous 2 different versions of the ending to the movie Army of Darkness, I do wonder if they did have maybe like a little cap. Like the cap to Army of Darkness, he's in the S-Mart where he kills people versus in the other version, he's like sent so forward in time to like erect civilization.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they have a little cap like that.
Ruby would have been dead already. I mean, they weren't going to go back and change.
Oh, yeah.
But I agree with you. They could have possibly had, just the very end could have been a little bit different.
All right. Somebody really nice, SMH9000, just wanted to say that these podcasts that we're doing are great because the shows, Double P Podcast Review, are great. Double P Podcasts find shows that are interesting, and some are even the underdogs of today. Good work, guys. Thank you so much.
So much of an underdog that there's only 1 episode left. Now, what SMH is talking about, SMH 9000 is talking about, is Ash may be ending, but Bubba and Catfish go on. We go on. You can't kill us.
We should have been canceled.
Just like Ruby. We cannot be killed. And so even now, we are doing a podcast on The Terror, which you can find on the Double P Podcast Network.
Podcast feed, yeah.
Yeah, that podcast feed. I mean, the Ash vs. Evil Dead has its own separate show, but we do have just the generic Double P Podcast feed where we do a lot of different things that just don't fit into certain niches. And so that's where The Terror Podcast is right now. We do call it Ice Cold.
Oh, yeah.
But you just find it on the Double P Podcast Network. All right, let's get some more listener feedback.
Okay, so where does one of our number 1 Double L's, Scott Pike, where does he leave his feedback every week?
He leaves it on the Facebook page.
Heck yeah.
Facebook.com/Double P Podcast. The word double, the letter P, and the word podcasts.
You do good with that plural podcast.
Well, you know what? I always laugh when I say it because I know what the Double P Podcast stand for. The original thing was it's Double P stood for Packed Podcast. And so it's funny when you say it's the Packed Podcast Network.
Excellent. All right, so Scott Pike, we really love you, Scott Pike. Let's get to this. Scott wrote episode 9, Zoe the Knight of Sumeria buys the farm. He says, anyone who guessed that Zoe would die near the end of this season, pay up.
It's nice he gives you a little bit of a buffer there because you thought it would be 10.
No, I thought it would be 9. I think our good Double L Patman 23 said 10.
Don't be bitter at Patman just because you perverted his words on the judgment of the case.
Lord. Patman, correct us if we're wrong. But I thought Catman was the one who said...
Okay.
I said 9. I think Patman said 10. What episode did you say, Catfish?
It might have been 2. That's how... I was as dead wrong as a deadite.
All right. He says, R.I.P. Zoe, you lasted longer than other knucklehead nights, mostly by...
Double Ks.
Right. He said Zoe survived mostly by A, staying near Ash, B, staying away from demons, and C, being in the back lines. But he notes survival of any kind on this show is a talent, so he tips his cap to Zoe. Now,
Zoe, we hardly knew you.
That's sure true. Now, Scott Pike does have a question for us. He goes, do you notice how the portal to the rift, when it opened, it was a different color this time when the dark ones came through? And he wonders why. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, maybe it just looks like a different... You know when you look at things compared to another color, or whether they're light and the dark, they look different? I mean, maybe the portal just looks different next to the dark ones. So the answer to that question is no, I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea either, but I agree, Scott. It was green tinted every time we've kind of seen it before, where today it felt like it had a blue tint that the Dark Ones snuck in.
Well, the to not be snarky, I think what that means is it used to go one way. And so you were looking into it.
Oh, that's a good call.
And now it's coming into our world. So now it's going the other way. So I think that's probably what they're doing there.
Scott continues. He says, with the arrival of the Dark Ones, the evil forces are ascendant in town. And suddenly...
True story.
Suddenly, they're everywhere in the town. It's like Cabin in the Woods. Scott writes, I did like the Ash-like behavior of Brandi in the shed. But the line, who's laughing now, seemed just a bit too much of a copy of what Ash has done already. So we finally see the Dark Ones consume some souls. Ruby lost hers and became a pile of bones. And for some reason, they ripped Kaya's soul out of Kelly's body before producing a living Kaya so they could kill her.
Because we need Kelly's body, that's why.
Well, why did the Dark Ones care? They don't care, do they?
Well, I think it's more painful if you get roasted in your own body than in somebody else's.
All right, Scott notes that the sinkhole at the end of this episode reminded him of the sinkholes from Season 1.
Yeah.
I think this is what they were supposed to lead to. Scott continues on, I mostly like the episode and give it 9 out of 10 like we did. Hey, yep. 9 out of 10 chainsaws. Honestly, this penultimate episode is great, and this is what I always thought Ash vs. Evil Dead would become after Season 1. Scott writes he's glad that we finally got to see the world face the evil dead that was suggested by the end of the Army of Darkness.
And what we have always kind of been hoping for.
Yeah.
That it would expand to the larger world. We recognize why this is not quite possible simply for budgetary reasons. I mean, as you mentioned tonight, I was thinking the same thing. You looked over at me and you said, okay, so we left the hardware store, we go out, and then we get
to
a
the
call,
house, and
now we got to go back to the hardware store.
There are 3 locations. They're good locations, but they're just 3. Scott continues on. He says that next week, that episode title and what they mentioned today is that it's a time to test the mettle of man, not the man.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is a test for humanity, not just Ash. I'm sad that we are now saying goodbye to all these characters, perhaps forever. I waited for something like this series for decades, tiding myself over with comic book continuations and video game continuations, different timelines, but a few years ago, we finally got it. Thanks to the team of Ash vs. Evil Dead and the people of Stars who gave us this opportunity to return to this world and leave it with some sense of completion. But curse you for not giving us a 4th and 5th season to finish it off.
Wow, that is nice.
Great notes, Scott. Thank you so much.
They are great notes. You know, one thing that he was talking about, the scene with Brandi in the shed.
Yeah, that was very much a throwback to Ash in the shed and the outside place of the cabin.
And the one thing that was really cool, I thought it was a great fake out, because as they started doing it, I thought, this is going to be so cool. And then they just faked this out, which was also cool, which was Brandi possibly going to saw off the same arm as Ash.
Kids, they just want to copy their parents.
That would have been super cool. It didn't happen, but I thought it was cool. I want to do our groovy line of the week.
Okay, fair enough. Let's hear it.
I only found one groovy line of the week, and I think some other people other than Ash said some lines that were okay. But when Ash was about to be the second person to have his eyes gouged out by Kelikaya in this episode, he said, "Not the money brows."
Oh, that's
so I thought that was funny. Now, what did you have?
I just love, and this goes back to infamous hashtag Writer Bubba Give the Notes, when Ash is saying, I'm going to take care of Ruby, and everybody joins in once and for all. That's great. It's the show lightly, and some maybe not too lightly, poking fun at itself. I loved that moment. And even if there weren't a lot of funny lines, this show built. This is what all the seasons I had hoped would have done, even though they all have great moments. This I just loved for how it's building this story, and it really feels like we're going to go out with a boom stick.
Nice. And funny, same with the Deadites of the week, where usually there's only one or two, but instead of having like one Deadite that we really focused on, there was a whole bunch of Deadites. I mean, I guess you could call it the phone Deadite. But what was your, just as a hint, that's not my Deadite of the week. Who was your Deadite of the week, Bubba?
Can you hear me now?
I'm listening.
Can you hear me
and
now?
I'm looking.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I'm going to the Deadite phone.
Okay.
R.I.P. Zoe, we love you. Fun, dark ones, like all sorts of craziness. But that phone is what I personally love out of the show. It's kind of gonzo eyes to where it looks like a Tex Avery cartoon character.
It almost looked like, for older listeners, in the early days of Microsoft Office, they used to have this helper
Clippy.
called Clippy. And so it kind of reminded me of Clippy as a phone.
Oh, Clippy, cell phones do ruin your thumbs, this time literally. Clippy, the phone, loved it.
All right. Well, I had, it was just a quick moment that was so funny and so weird for me when Pablo and Kelly are kind of good. They attacked in the car, and then they just take off, and the Deadite who was like attacking the car just kind of looks after them, and it kind of confused. What do I do now?
Right. We were supposed to fight. You were supposed to try to kill me. I'm trying to kill you. You're just leaving? So I wait here then.
Yeah.
Okay, all
so
right.
that was, I gave it to the confused Deadite. that was my Deadite of the week. All right, so let's break down the episode starting from the start. And
let's do it from the start.
I'm just going to give a quick count. We don't have to talk about it later. My quick count is how many times Kelly was told, just wait here and you'll be safe. That was 2 times in this episode.
Drink.
Once by Ash, once by Pablo. At least Pablo did it, and Kelly. By that time, Kelly was like, I'm not freaking staying by myself anymore. It's just horrible when I stay by myself.
Right. Catfish, we've only got one more episode. Has Brandi officially joined the Ghost Beaters? If... miracle upon miracles. There's yet another Evil Dead film. Do you want Brandi in it?
Let's not ruin it, because that is tonight's court case of the week.
I always find out these court cases kind of by happenstance. You could let me know ahead of time, and then defense attorney Bubba might do better in the cases. You ever think that, listeners?
Well, I tell you, most of the time you have about as much warning as I do.
Well, all right, then let's leave Brandi alone for a bit. And do you want to say in R.I.P. Zoe, not many laughs, but if you're going to go out on the show, you want a memorable way to go out. And so having your back turned into a book page, that's pretty good.
Well, you know what they say. I mean,
she's going to need some don'ts.
Well, listen. This book,
the
Necronomicon.
Okay.
How long's it been around?
Thousands of years, I would hope.
And it seems fairly indestructible, right? So we presume it'll be around for thousands more years.
Oh, of course.
So she'll live on forever. I mean, Zoe has been memorialized in this book. She will live forever.
Well, when you pass on, and you want you want your words to last forever.
You do.
Or someone else's words to last forever on a bit of your skin.
I just don't know whether Zoe's page is canon or not.
But this was a gross, disgusting,
awesome.
Cold open.
So good. So nasty. And then we get another flashback. I mean, this was basically this same thing happened to El Brujo Especial, or Especial Brujo. Pablo did this to try and take down Ball last year. It's the old thumbs in the eyes, which is funny because when you think of it, it's a really horrific, you do see it in some movies that are just really nasty where people get their eyes gouged out.
Right.
And it's horrible.
Oh,
but it's also... They love this kind of thing because it's very Three Stooges to get your eyes poked. Now, not gouged.
Not gouged.
But poked.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a combo here that I'm sure they love. They're like, what are we going to go through? What are we going to do here? Well, we can't do the eye gouge again?
An old classic.
Come on.
An oldie but a goodie.
It's a goodie.
I think Zoe, she's turned a page. She's... or turned into a page.
Oh.
And so I feel bad for you, Zoe. The knights who say... ouch, is what these Knights of Sumerians have been.
I'm just wondering if someone's going to pick up this book and they look at that page and they're going to say, wait, did I buy the wrong book? Because it's horrible when you buy the wrong book.
Well, Zoe is because they'll go, oh, with this page, it's a second edition.
Right. Will it make it more valuable or less valuable?
Aw. It's when authors go back and rewrite their works. They're like, oh, come on.
Right.
Now, because there are only 3 sets, we have another thing that I really like. Not only did I like the terrible grossness of Zoe becoming a page, but suddenly, Pablo, he's had this issue with the Necronomicon since the beginning of season 2, right? That's when it attached itself to his face. is one of those early episodes in season 2. And now
it seems mighty convenient.
Well, yeah, it does, but it finally seems to pay off that connection. Oh my God, I can see through the eyes of the book. I loved that moment.
But the only thing that I didn't like about it was I wish he was more active in it. It just seems to happen to him rather than him saying I wish I could help if there was some way, like, let me try to do something. Mm-hmm. It just happens to him. Rather than if he's not the El Brujo Normal. He's the El Brujo Especial. I want him to be able to take a more active role in it.
I see what you're saying, but wasn't one of the best moments in the episode where Ash is looking down at the Necronomicon. He's like, Pablo, come in. Can you hear me? He's using it like a walkie-talkie.
That was funny, and then that one still could have worked with Pablo being more active in forging the connection the first time.
All right. Okay.
We're trying to make Pablo into something special here, and it seems like he only can do special things when the plot really, really needs it.
Well, he's the Deus Ex Machina. Get it? It's because he sees through it.
Oh, man.
Thank God for Pablo. He didn't get double P'd like Zoe.
Double P'd?
Pupils punctured. I made you wait for that one.
I thought you were going to say page pricked.
So, yeah, okay. So let's go through it again. Ash tells Pablo, all right, listen to me. Get to the hardware store and make sure the rift isn't open and shut down and locked down. They were just in the hardware store. Are they sure that the rift wasn't open? But no, Pablo has to go back. Because Pablo saw through the Necronomicon, Ash has to go back to Miss Previtt's. We go here, location. Then we go back. Then we go there, location. Then we go back.
Now, one thing is, Ash finally achieved the ultimate in fatherhood today. You're not a father until your baby spits up on you while you're trying to burp them.
Oh, that was disgusting. But what made it even worse is after Brandi spits up on him, he runs his finger through it. He's like, oh, it's okay. What?
It's like his whole hand.
When I become a father, I am not running my fingers through my baby's puke. Yuck.
Well, all right, fine, be that way. You know what?
Sorry, Dr. Spock.
You know what? It's not your life anymore at that point.
Right, all my life for baby Bubba.
Double B, baby Bubba.
They split up, leave Brandi behind, because you'll be safe behind. You're not safe anywhere. You know, what's the point?
Well, no, that's the thing, is that if anyone's learned anything in this series, is that the safest place to be is with Ash. Mm-hmm. And it said behind Ash. He's never going to die.
Did you, before she puked up and kind of soured the moment, did you feel emotion at this hug between father and daughter?
No.
Oh, terrible, Catfish. Terrible.
I refuse to be moved on this point.
Now, as someone who has loved Evil Dead for 30 years, what do you want to say about the appearance of these Dark Ones? How long have they been part of the mythology? How long have Dark Ones been part of the canon? Do they go back to the original films? Because I have trouble really remembering the mythology of the earlier films and the things that Dr. Noby said on that infamous recording that kept playing over and over and over.
You know, this is horrible because Scott Pike would know. But the old wizard in Army of Darkness talks about the Dark Ones a lot. And so I had thought that before that, in the first two, it was just talk about sort of this like crazy evil. Mm-hmm. And that the Dark Ones weren't part of the lore until Army of Darkness.
Okay. All right. Well, they finally came out, got their time in the spotlight.
Here they are. You know, another thing Scott Pike was talking about, like, is there only 3 of them? I mean, there's only 3 of them in the books. And maybe this is just the head council, the Council of Dark Ones. You know what I mean? Like, this, you work so long, you get elected.
What if it's the other way? What if this is the scout team? Okay, guys, there's a hole in the rift. Who wants to go out there and check it out? You 3?
Right. Oh, well, it could be. These are the least intimidating ones. And then Papa Dark One shows up, and he is big and nasty.
Now, they saw Pablo there, and they immediately stabbed Pablo. And did you think Pablo was a goner? Was this his chance? Or did you know, no, Pablo's got to live? Because everybody can feel them back at the Previtt house. Ruby straightens up. She's like, uh-oh, the Dark Ones, the ones we've always feared, they're here. Oh, snap. But once again, these Dark Ones do stab Pablo right in the chest. I knew he wasn't dead because it was so kind of out of the blue and they hadn't invested any emotional weight in it. but they take the missing pages of the Necronomicon.
Right, and I like how he says later on
to the side.
He's later on was like, I don't think they could feel me because I'm half dark and half not. They did impale him with their energy fist, but he's right, it didn't kill him. But I think they knew he was there.
True, they must have because they took the pages from him and tossed him aside. Over in the Elk Grove bar, it's our sign that it's not just the Dark Ones have entered our realm; it's that all hell is literally breaking loose.
Good pun.
I'm not. Is it a pun?
I don't know.
But this is horrific. This is the point that so many of us wanted, that it isn't just a Ash versus this person. There's a reason why when they say, I'm going to finish Ruby once and for all, and they're all together, is because it has kind of become a rote thing, something common. Now, with this whole town being attacked, this raises the stakes. It's like Ghostbusters. It's not just that the Ghostbusters are in trouble. All New York City is in trouble. Spoiler alert for the Ghostbusters. Here, similarly, this whole town, this whole area is in trouble. I loved this escalating of the disaster, of the fear.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's sad is, and again, they probably could never have done it because of the budget, but it would be nice to see a season of evil out there in the world. That's not going to happen, and I don't think it would have happened even if the next episode, I don't think it's going to happen. They're going to kind of wrap things up at least a little bit, but that would have been a fun thing to see. It does feel a little, like you say, when you're only half joking, when you're like, okay, well, we have Ruby's place, we've got the hardware store, we got Ash's house.
That's it. I mean, come on. That's all it's ever been. Now, the school was there, but we haven't been in the school in a while. It's just been here to there to there to there.
Well, I can't go back because whenever I go, it reminds me of Coogie.
Man, R.I.P. Coogie.
Our Coogie didn't even, as you said, I was listening to the podcast and it didn't strike me until I was listening to you without you being here and physically in front of me. How sad it was that they celebrated a student and a student's mother dying
at the winter formal.
At the winter formal, no one gives a crap about Coog.
Oh, man. Now, the camera monster, the camera Deadite view is back. That's one thing that dates back to the first Evil Dead movie. That's something people love. I assume you went 9 out of 10 that you love the infamous camera chasing our heroes. First time that Deadite camera bypasses Pablo because they're like, big deal, Pablo's not worth our time. But they spent a lot of time chasing Brandi with that camera cam. I loved it, loved it, loved it. This is so funny. When did the Evil Dead movie come out? Because it's an effective way to build tension.
It is, and also the cheapest way.
Both are. So what? It's cheap. It works.
Yeah.
And seeing Brandi
I would have thought it was faster.
Thing was great.
I would have thought it was faster. People usually can't run away. Either maybe they're
that's
too,
true.
They're too stunned.
But Ash kind of did in one of them. And remember where the evil thing was chasing him in Evil Dead 2 and then it lost track of where he was?
Yeah.
So good. Chases Brandi up the stairs all through the Brock Williams house that we've come to know over these 2 seasons. Brandi jumps out of the window, smashes down. Love every minute of this. Brandi goes into this exterior garage, which has a tool shed in it. This is classic Evil Dead, even if it's without the fun Ash character and instead his daughter Brandi. Really great moment. 9 out of 10. Everything in this episode worked as they wanted it to. And did you know that the phone was going to be this evil? When she sees it's from her mom, I thought the phone might say evil things to her, as it did. You know, like, Brandi, you're a terrible kid, but you taste great.
Yeah.
But the fact that the phone became a mini Necronomicon / Microsoft Clippy, loved it.
Yeah, Evil Clippy was cool. I did not expect it. When she goes to put her thumb on, no, I'm not. I refuse to take this call. And this is what happens sometimes when you decline calls.
Oh, yeah.
You get in trouble.
It's terrible.
Not this much trouble.
It's terrible, but if you watch the little post-show extra they do when you download the show on demand, this was a mixture of an actual puppet that looked like Clippy with some digital effects to truly get the look they wanted. And
they show it. They show
great.
it in the regular time. Regular. It's not just when you download it. I'm pretty
well,
sure
I don't think on Stars they just show it. You know, on Stars.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm watching the download that I get.
On Starz, they have to immediately start promoting shows that Ash vs. Evil Dead viewers will love, like Howard's End, Vita, Sweet Bitter. And I feel like we need to keep talking about this show passing on, the show entering the rift and going to the great beyond, because I mentioned it earlier, none of the shows that Starz promotes while this is on really sync with what you would think is Ash vs. Evil Dead audience is.
No, it's funny. We were talking about a book that we both liked earlier called The Rook that has a supernatural tint to it, and that would be a natural thing to sort of promote. Now, it's not. That show is not in any way going to be gonzo. That's going to be. It's a pretty straightforward. It's going to be a mix of like spy and it's like supernatural spy.
Yeah, but the fact that it has any bit of supernatural, it would work better as a kind of a tied program to it.
Yeah.
Than this does. I mean, I know I'm getting off track from this episode, but if you watch HBO, they had Veep and Silicon Valley, and now they have Silicon Valley and Barry, shows which are both half-hour shows, but kind of do work together. You would think the target audience, especially for Silicon Valley, probably would be the target audience for Barry. And so I know, hey, everybody watches everything on demand. Everybody watches it this. But in this day and age where you do want viewers to build, I think it does help to have similar shows or shows with similar audience next to each other.
Well, I mean,
and
it's the whole...
Starz hasn't had that, which is a shame for Ash vs.
It's the whole reason why networks still, if they have a hit and then they have a new show that they want to promote, they put that show on after the hit.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people just hang out and leave the TV on. Us oldsters who watch it on TV, and it works. You see those new shows get huge ratings, and then when they move, they don't bring any of those people with them because people are just lazy leaving the TV on.
Heck yeah. And there's nobody lazier than us.
There's nothing like CBS and chill.
I was going to say PBS and chill. All right, so let's get back to this episode. Ash has made it to the Previtt house. Kelikaya is spreading blood around in a circle.
As I like to refer to her now as Kelly Basquiat. She's doing some art.
Right. She's getting through there, making some art on the floor and on the walls. Theoretically, the dead ones, this is some sort of zone, some sort of protection so that the dark ones couldn't enter this circle of blood. Of course,
worked out well.
It did not work out well. Why? Because Ash Williams is there to draw them out of the circle. So terrible. Ash comes in. He doesn't even try a sneak attack. He just comes in and says, I'm going to pull all the cards. He has the dagger. This dagger changes hands more than anybody. He holds it to Kelikaya's throat. It is on.
Right, and there is, he sort of makes a funny deal here. I think this person is more important to you than Kelly. I mean, I would almost make a bet with her and say, I mean, if it was thinking about it, the fact that Kelly's still down there, if this body gets stabbed, that Kaya would be out of it and Kelly would still have a chance to get in it.
Yeah, his body was stabbed by the exact same dagger and he came back from it.
Right. So if he was thinking, maybe he would have just said, I'm just gonna stab this thing now.
Right. And Ruby is not really attached to anybody. I don't think it's very believable that Ruby would say, okay, you got me, let Kaya live.
Right.
Because Ruby's an evil witch.
Well, except that I think Ruby, for some reason, thinks she needs Kaya for this.
Probably to deal with the dark ones who have just been released. Of course, while Ash is doing this Deadite standoff, who comes in and grabs him? Zoe. Deadite Zoe wants a bit more coverage, a bit more camera time, and so Ash has to slice off Zoe's arm. Oh, how come Ash doesn't go into the rift and save her?
That is mean. And now they go into this fight. I would say Ash is more skilled with a chainsaw than those guys who juggle chainsaws. Because juggling is one thing. You know where the chainsaw is going to be. But when that chainsaw is on and you're getting thrown up against things and in the midst of a fight and yet you still don't nick yourself at all with it, that's the sign of a chainsaw master.
Proud.
Chainsaw chef, double C.
You're always so tough on Brandi. Mm-hmm. The show is cutting back and forth between all three locations, the hardware store, the Williams house, and the Previtt house. You said that you loved the idea that Brandi was going to chop off her own arm. It was just to fake out Do you like Brandi in all these situations? I'm always having to ask you this, Catfish, because you're always so tough on her. Why don't you just always tell us, okay, here's Brandi in this scene, I feel blank.
Oh, here's Brandi in this scene, and I feel good because all it does is remind me of previous scene with Ash. So in this way, this is a better way to get me to like her and feel like she's part of the family, is to have her go through some of the things that Ash did and triumph over it. So this is a better way to get me to like Brandi and feel she's tough.
Right. The one positive...
I mean, it's partly not her fault. People are always leaving her alone. You'll be safe here. Like hell I will.
Right. You'll be safe here. See you next episode. Brandi, we did this ridiculous thing where it's like they wanted to have the drama of Brandi not connecting with her father so that when it built to these moments, like the time when she jumped in the car and said, I'm with you, Dad, or the hug she gave him earlier, or the fact that Ash saved her last week, that quote-unquote it's been earned. And maybe it's just because I love Clippy the puppet so much. I love this an awful lot. She stabs poor Clippy, and then she gets it with the snowplow. Oh, R.I.P. cell phone.
Clippy, sell Clippy, we hardly knew you.
Now, she killed the phone, but did she kill the data plan? Like, is she still got 2 years left on this data plan?
Well, I don't know. I wonder what kind of replacement plan she has, because when she brings the phone in to the center...
Right, they're going to say, well, let me see if I can pull the chip out and install it. Not going to work.
So, of course, once Brandi gets out of that, then she meets up with Pablo because it's very important.
Because Pablo left the house, went to the hardware store. Now he's come back to the house. I wonder where he and Brandi will go after this.
Well, they need to go somewhere else. The car.
Right. And then the hardware store. I even love the little moment where Brandi is like, okay, you say you're Pablo. How do I know you're really Pablo? That's what somebody who's been paying attention should ask.
Right. They don't have a safe word, but I guess things are just so bad that...
what would be a good safe word? El Brujo Especial?
Yeah.
Like, they're like, no Deadeye would bother saying that silliness.
Especial. Yeah, and this is the scene where we have the confused Deadite, which to me was just, that was a little touch. I don't know what they meant to do there, but that's how I read it, and I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Yeah, this guy in the rain slicker, he came dressed for the weather. That's good work, Deadite. I love it.
Yeah, his response is, what now?
Okay, so Ruby, who's had the ability to kill so many people, she destroys something that's probably the biggest thing on the show. I think you were sadder for this chainsaw being destroyed, Catfish, than any of the times Brandi, Pablo, or Kelly have been killed on this show.
You can see Bruce Campbell is feeling it in the gut of his stomach. I mean, it's really funny that not just squeezing it, but then he's like, "No, not the blade."
Aww. But Ruby could kill this guy at any time. It looks like Ash is about to have his pupils popped by evil Kelakaya's eye-gouging evilness. But who comes to rescue our hero? The Dark Ones. Hey! And they are stone-cold badasses who, if you hate Ruby and Kaya as much as they've all season long said, oh, the Dark Ones hate us, are these deaths worth it? Are these deaths as bad as they could be? You have Kaya cooked, and really, Ruby goes through some dehydration. What do you think is the worst death that these Dark Ones gave him?
Yeah,
Catfish?
Ruby is, I believe the technical term is parched. She is parched. Now, what's so funny is, as you say here, this knife, which has gone everywhere and is very important, that gets tossed aside.
Who needs it? Nobody needs it. The Dark Ones don't need it.
The Dark Ones, when you've got 3 Dark Ones, that's not enough to cover everybody in the room. They've all got to focus on their retribution of Ruby and Kaya. So in the meantime, Ash gets to sneak out with the body of Kelly.
Right, and the Necronomicon he sneaks out with.
Very important. He's got 3 things with him.
So when 3 guys break in to kill Ruby, you know, they've been waiting for this for so long, they've all got to watch. It's like, okay, everybody focus up. Hey, is something else happening? No, focus up. We're going to kill Ruby now.
The other funny thing is, then Ruby then Ruby threatens them with ash.
Right.
So it's so weird. Like, she's been disdainful of Ash. I guess she hasn't been disdainful. I mean, she's put all these strange, if you look at them in retrospect, maybe not perfect plans into motion because of how concerned she was with Ash. So now she's going to say, you're screwed. This guy, he's so tough.
Yeah, don't kill
and
me.
smart.
You got a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Now, has the prophecy always said that Ash would destroy the Dark Ones? I am so confused on the mythology. I apologize, listeners, as somebody who co-hosts the Ash vs. Evil Dead podcast. I should know this. But what exactly...
Yeah, he's supposed to get rid of the Dark Ones.
Okay, and does it say in what season this prophecy happens? He will get rid of the Dark Ones by the end of the show.
Yeah, and so then he reaches out to Pablo, as you said, very funny.
I like that moment a lot. That was
10-4, 10-4.
10-4, good, Pablo.
You know what? We know what Pablo's handle is, El Brujo Especial, and then we know that Ash's is El Jefe.
Right.
So really, it's like, we got a convoy.
We got a great big convoy riding across the land. And they come into town. You know,
Where are they going?
There's no guess where they're going. They're going to the Ashes. Turns out he's actually going to go into the bar. He thought this was a drive-up bar. And he smashes into one of the other sets on the show, the bar, and the Dark Ones come. They want this book. So I didn't realize this was the plan. The Dark Ones need to get out of the rift. I knew that was part of the plans. I knew they hated Kaya and Ruby. I knew that was part of the plan.
Well, I think
but the fact they needed the Necronomicon to really unleash the beast, I did not know.
I don't know.
That,
I thought the only power of the book was the power to destroy the Dark Ones.
Or to call them, it seems like. Or to call them.
Okay, well, I guess that's the case. What's funny is, considering that if they've been paying attention to the book,
yeah,
one of the pictures in the book has a man with a chainsaw for an arm who is known as the Savior.
Right, but Ash doesn't have a chainsaw anymore because Ruby destroyed it.
Oh, so you think they don't recognize him?
So they're like,
we don't care about this guy.
They're like, oh, this guy doesn't have a chainsaw. He's nuts, and let's just throw him out in the street.
It makes complete sense to me. Now, what I wonder is, what do we think happened with Ruby's plan with the extra page? Do we think that plan has already come to naught and it's been destroyed, or can that new page still screw up the Dark One's plans?
Great question. Listeners, I want you to go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/double P podcasts, and tell us what you think. My thought process, just based on this episode, obviously not having seen our final episode ever, is that because Ash brought it out of that circle of blood, it's like, oh, that's it. Maybe if they had left the book with that news page in the circle of blood, the Dark Ones never could have seen it or found it.
Okay, and I'm going to go on...
There's nothing in the show that says that. I'm just spitballing.
I'm going to go on the other side just because, to me, it seems whatever... for example, it's like a recipe book, and they put in a new page that says, okay, before you put this in the oven, drop it on the floor and mix it around with the dirt, and then put it in the oven.
And use some romaine lettuce from Arizona.
Yes.
Timely joke.
All right, so then we have...
the heightening of stakes, the building of tension. It's not just that the Dark Ones are here and they're killing bad guys and have unleashed Deadites on the town, and the town is going insane. They open this giant sinkhole to hell, and something incredibly large, some evil demon comes out with hands as big as the Delta. Oh, hell. That's the end of the episode. Loved it. Great.
Wow.
It makes you immediately want to see the next episode. Wonderful work.
Absolutely.
9 out of 10.
Absolutely. Wow. I do want to see that next episode. We will see it.
Yep.
And it will be the last episode. I don't know what the plans are. You know, it's possible we could have some more Ash versus Evil Dead. I was reading some articles and some people saying, it'd be nice if somebody else could pick it up. The funny thing is, people are like, Amazon and Netflix are throwing around all this money, so they can surely afford this. Well, Amazon and Netflix are throwing around money on things, so maybe they don't have money to throw it around on other things. I know it is being seasons 1 and 2 are being shown.
on Netflix, and the idea there, why they were shown on Netflix, is that Netflix viewers would be able to say, ooh, I love this show. Then they would come to Starz, and they would help build the audience there. Doesn't seem to have worked.
Well, my question to you is, well, do you know when they started streaming it? We don't know.
I don't know. I know that it was before season 3 started airing.
Well,
let's
I mean, Netflix is going to know whether enough people watch.
Oh, they're good metrics. Yeah.
Yeah, they know. They never tell anybody else, but they know whether people are watching it or not.
And I think Starz knows their metrics pretty well. They know those of us who download it early. They get data not only from the Nielsen ratings. I think things like I'm on DirecTV, so the DirecTV
they have to
keeps
know.
a track of that
DirecTV
stuff.
has to tell them how many people are recording. Just like with our podcast, we know how many subscribers we have, but also we know people who download. It's not exactly, we can't exactly tell if someone's listened to it, right? It's not like DirecTV can say this was watched until the end or watched until minute. They probably can break it down.
I think there may be some stats like that on iHeartRadio and some of those other apps.
I mean, I'm sure that DirecTV can tell them episode 9, this many people watched until minute 8, and this many people watched until minute 9. They can
watch the whole thing and then immediately hit next or whatever. Yeah, Netflix has good data like that. Let's get to it, Catfish.
Yes.
This show launched in 2015.
2015.
The first episode it launched, and it had 437,000 same-day viewers.
Wow.
April 15th, that it slipped down to 175,000 viewers.
I think would be even more interesting, I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this, would be sort of the average from season 1, because I bet there was a big drop-off from episode 1 to episode 2 even in season 1. But still, you'd kind of want the numbers to go up.
Right, as the season continued.
Or as the seasons continued. In other words, for example, a show that I turned you on to, Breaking Bad.
Correct.
It started off low, and then it wasn't until almost its last half season where all of a sudden it was crazy. It was
because people were catching up on Netflix and things like that. AMC was always doing marathons to get people interested in it.
Yeah.
If Ash started with 437,000 same-day viewers, if it still had those viewers, I think it'd still be on the air right now. I think it would be going to season 4. And so this is the most minor Writer Bubba Gives Notes section.
Okay.
And so let's get to it.
Okay. Writer Bubba Gives Notes. Writer Bubba Gives Notes. The show's almost over. They didn't listen to him. Writer Bubba's still gonna give you notes. It was sort of a Leonard Cohen kind of thing, and is it kind of a dirge because of what's happening?
Well, let me say that these Writer Bubba Gives Notes, I don't feel like I should really do the segment anymore because this has been me pointing out little things when they've given us 3 great years of a show we loved, of characters we've loved or grown to love, or with you and Brandi, acknowledged as characters. But let me say that this season, it's finally getting so much right. As wonderful as moments in season 1 and season 2 were, I always talked about how it was kind of ramshackle and it didn't feel like it built to anything. And there were these hard turns. We talked about how season 2, the disagreement between Rob Tappert and the original showrunner over fighting about which direction to go. And so even though there were great episodes in both of those years, and maybe even better episodes in those years than in season 3, season 3 has got this forward momentum that just goes. There's going to be, you were talking about Netflix data. There's not going to be anybody who's going to watch this episode 9, even if they jumped around and haven't watched the whole season. They watch this episode 9, they are immediately hitting next, play, get me to episode 10. I want to tip my cap to these great writers who have given us, once again, 3 seasons of great stuff. If you could go back in time, and if you had had some kind of big picture, I always go to the Game of Thrones White Walker threat, which has been this big kind of picture story that was always dangling out there, that people always wanted to see, what's going to happen. And that was always, the show could never end, Game of Thrones could never end until they dealt with it. If Ash versus Evil Dead somehow could have built that in and had a running kind of bigger problem building as it went along, I think there's a chance that's another way you could have probably guaranteed a season 4 or a season 5. Like, we need to see this resolved. But that said, this season, even though the episodes haven't been as great, I feel, as in past seasons, the season-long arc, I think, worked really great. And I just want to tip my cap to Bruce Campbell, Lucy Lawless, Ray Santiago, Dana DeLorenzo,
Rob Tappert,
Arielle Carver, whatever your last name is. I'm sorry, Brandi, I don't know. It's Carver something or other. Just tip my cap to them because this season they got the overall season arc perfect.
Right
now, I'm so excited for the episode 10. That's Writer Bubba Gives Notes.
Well, just to kind of add to that, as we talked about in the first episode, and maybe in some other ones of the podcast, is that right before I started season 3, I watched seasons 1 and 2, just kind of binged them right away, and so I got to see some overall things, and that was in season 1. It felt like they didn't know what they besides not having a master plan sort of for a 5-year series. It felt like they didn't know kind of what they were trying to do until middle through that. They kind of had the same problem with season 2, and then they ended that one really strong. And like I said earlier in this episode, I mean, they could have ended with that. So I feel like I agree with you that the lack of like an overall, maybe it's just because someone said, oh my God, this is a great idea, they'll spend money on it, or maybe it had to do with the showrunner leaving. But it feels to me like if you're going to do a show, and you know some of these guys have done TV shows. Rob Tappert has done TV shows.
Oh, they've done all of Xena, Hercules.
Right.
They know how to make a hit show.
Right. But as far as the mythology, those didn't have something like this. So those were happy to be sort of more episodic. I'm surprised they didn't have. You know, a lot of times when people have a new series, I don't know if you'd be surprised to learn this or not, but they come in with a 5-year plan.
They have
this
to
is
nowadays,
what's going to happen. Yeah. This is what's going to happen in year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that because a network is going to make a lot more money and be a lot happier having a show that runs longer. It means they don't have to pay for more pilots to put in there. You know, it means that they've got a show that is building, and you know, as a show builds, they can get more money, advertising money from it. I mean, networks would be happy to have shows that lasted 10 years. They wouldn't care. You see, they will leave shows on far past their date. I won't mention any of them. Some of them I've been on.
You have been on, or at least one I can think of.
Where they'll just keep going. As long as people watch, they'll keep going, whether they've run out of ideas or not. But when they go into the network, they don't just have one season anymore. They've got an outline for 5 seasons, and it felt like it didn't have that for this.
Well, let me jump in on that and say that the joke, which I loved, which was my groovy line of the week, of where it's like, this time I'm going to deal with Ruby once and for all. The fact that they can joke about that is partially, admittedly, why I think the numbers have fallen off so hard. It's like, what are the stakes if, this week we got to battle Ruby? And they have had some victories over Ruby. They've lost some. There's no change. It is very episodic. And those Xena shows, I'm going to go to those as opposed to Hercules. I'm not an expert on either of these shows they did, but on those Xena shows, they were very much, okay, Xena's going to deal with this problem that's in this episode. Now, there were some larger stories that would arc through.
Right.
But they were very episodic, because that's what the TV viewers at that time on a weekly fun fantasy show wanted.
Correct. And the reason, it wasn't just viewers that wanted that, but at that time, networks executive wanted it too, because it's easier to sell in syndication if somebody can, for example, let's take the example we were talking about earlier, Breaking Bad. That is not the kind of show where you see an episode is running that you'd be as likely to jump into as, say, a Friends.
Right.
And it's not just the tone, it's the fact of like,
where
am I in things?
Right.
Yeah. But that's what people like now. They like these longer told stories rather than just here's something that's got nothing to do with
here you could jump in on an episode of Xena or Hercules. It's like, okay, here are the good guys. Oh, there's this evil demon, this evil god, whatever, and that's a problem they're going to deal with. That's easy to jump in on and then kind of get hooked. You're right, Breaking Bad, though I must say that my mom got hooked jumping in the middle of, I think, season 3 or season 4. But yeah, it's...
Well, I'm just saying, if you pass by stuff on a Saturday afternoon and you see one episode of Breaking Bad, I think you're going to say to yourself, oh, if I watch this, I'm going to have to watch more. It's just so good. Yeah. And like, but am I going to know where I am? Because what this didn't have that Breaking Bad had was a build, a season build, as well as a series build.
Amen. All
right. Well, we've only got one episode left, and we've only got one thing left to do in this episode, and that is the court case.
This is the versus Bubba versus Catfish court case of the week. The
Exactly.
Uncle Q, at the Uncle Q on Twitter, sent out, I love the Branson Minute, which is Prosecutor Catfish's position from last week's episode. So good.
Just sit on the veranda and have your sweet tea.
So Uncle Q wrote, I love the Branson Minute, a vote for Catfish, hashtag neighbor's wife.
Oh, well, you know what that was, right? Because she's drying her clothes on the line, and then a gentle breeze comes and maybe sweeps up her skirt for just a second.
You keep this clean, for God's sake.
Well, that's all that it is. It's a very, it's not like you're going to act on it or anything.
Now, you had other votes, Catfish, from our Double L loyal listeners.
I did.
Can't wait.
I did. I had some other ones, too, and... it's very complex.
Complex.
Yeah. It's very complex. We have had there was a little bit of a brouhaha.
You mean an El Brouhaha Especial?
Yeah. A little bit of an El Brouhaha because one of our special loyal listeners, Patman23,
we love Patman23,
felt as if his intentions had been besmirched.
What?
The week before.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. And he protested, and he was joined by Susan Monk, also known as Barbara Sue.
We love Susan. Love Patman, love Susan.
They both backed up my version of events. And that was
your version?
Yeah, with that Patman had agreed with me the week before, and now Patman also agrees with me this week as well.
Let me say, this constant agreeing with you, I wonder if Patman is your alias, Catfish. We're going to have to go to Dallas, Texas to see if Patman is his own person. We
are
love.
Begging Patman to bring himself and anybody he can to our panel.
Strangers off the street, Patman.
Everybody you can to our panel at Con of Thrones.
Well, I don't mean to besmirch Patman, Susan. Only you, Catfish. I was trying to besmirch you. So let's hear it.
Well, no.
What was their feedback?
Well, their feedback was very detailed and very hard for me to find right now.
Maybe if they knew how poorly you planned these podcasts, maybe they would actually vote for me more often.
It's not about planning. It's about convincing people and also just being right.
Well, yeah, you don't plan. So when you say it's not about planning, that's the right thing to say. Because I had all these people's feedback. You see how I just read them off one after the other?
I saw that. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm searching for the Double P Podcast
Oh, boy.
Network.
This is live.
I don't know why I can't find it. No. You can just edit this out.
Everybody, I'm not editing this out. I'm leaving this in so people can see.
All of a sudden, it's got me searching the marketplace. Oh, this is horrible. There we go. Now, here we are in the Double P Podcast Network. You can, right there, I see that you've got it loaded up. I've gone to posts.
Yeah.
Right? And then I've gone to visitors' posts.
This is live podcasting right now.
For some reason, I can only see Scott Pike's posts for the entirety of time.
Okay, I give up. You can't even search Facebook. I will read some of this feedback from Batman.
Yeah, okay, read it back.
Batman says that he is a double L.
Double L.
Because last week he felt like he was a loser listener because he didn't get a chance to see the episode yet before we released the podcast. And so he was worried about that.
Yeah.
Susan Monk, remember you read her lyrics. You did her version of the Writer Bubba Gives Notes theme song. And she said you gave a great interpretation of her lyrics. She gave you a thumbs up.
She did. Now, I remember her saying that she may have been a little tipsy when she wrote the lyrics, and that is why she was a little upset because she thought that I read it as a country song because she's in Texas, but she reminded me she's a California girl, and I just said because there's drinking involved, I thought it should be country.
Pat, he says, this week I'm voting for Catfish, all caps, and the Branson Minute, harumph.
That is the whole thing.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Did you want to read? There was a long, fun interaction on Facebook that we could go deep into, but really, listeners, I'm so desperate.
All right, no, here it is right here. Okay, so after he said he was voting for the Branson Minute, I said, let the people's voice be heard, and he said, don't let Bubba gaslight you. Susan Monk said, the podcast drama is incredible, And she said his vote counts double this week.
Okay, I agree. Pat, man, your vote always
And
goes
then you
double.
said you should fix Pat's typo, which autocorrected New York to Branson, and he asked you to go back to Russia.
Oh, no.
And said Cambridge Analytica is forwarding your response. Oh, my.
So you won last week, Catfish. So we've got 2 court cases left. Forget the show ending. These court cases, thank the maker, are ending. So are you ready to go into court?
I am. Let's do it.
And remind me what this case is again.
This case is whether Brandi is now officially a ghost beater.
All right. The case of Ghost Beater Brandi, to be or not to be, is now in session. Prosecutor Catfish, state your case.
Your Honor, I would love to state my case,
Okay, do it.
but I cannot.
Okay,
In
next.
full conscience,
wait.
state my case this week because there is another in the court who wishes to speak instead of me. All rise. The Honorable Atticus Bullfinch is now in session. Well, my name is Judge Atticus Bullfinch, and I am here to lead the disbarment proceedings for Judge Bubba. That's right, Judge Bubba, as we all know, is the father of defense attorney Bubba, and it has come to my attention
Yes.
that in many of the cases this year, that you have either altered the actual case itself, the terms of the case, or you have tilted the court in the favor of your son, Bubba. So, Judge Bubba, this is the time to put you in the chair.
Can I state my case?
You state your case. Who is your attorney, Judge Bubba?
I would like to call as my first witness
Who are you going to call, Judge Bubba?
Defense Attorney Bubba.
All right, you call him.
Thanks, Dad. I'll take it from here. Do you solemnly swear to uphold the law? Swear to Jesus, Mother of Mary. Thank you.
Listen,
Thank you, Bailiff Rusty. That's fine.
Let's call him by his full name, Bailiff Rusty Bubba. That's right. He is the cousin of Judge Bubba and the great uncle cousin of Bubba.
Your Honor, can I please continue cross-examining my witness? This has gone a bit crazy.
Well, you may. You see, this is part of the problem. You see, I'm not sure you're aware of regular jurisprudence, but he hasn't been examined yet. You see, you're gonna examine him, and it's Catfish who's gonna cross-examine him. And it's just
Yes,
lack
I'm
of
trying
knowledge.
to examine him.
No, you said cross-examine. You see, you don't know how the case works. Go ahead and examine him.
Now, Defense Attorney Bubba.
Yes, please. Let's get on with it, Dad. What's up?
Defense Attorney Bubba, why did you go into law?
Well, Dad, I thought we had this talk.
Yes, but the whole court needs to hear it, son. Tell everybody.
Thanks, Dad. I grew up hating the law, as was my nature. But then, Dad, because you nurtured me after my mom passed away, and then I decided to become a lawyer due to your nurturing influence.
That's so good of you to bring up last week's case, son. Continue.
And so, Dad...
Well, first, point of order.
Dad-
That was 2 weeks ago, that case was. You can't even remember when the cases were.
So, Dad, I would like to go on and say that
Last week's case was
really
the
made
Branson
me-
Minute. Can you remember that?
Your Honor, can I please answer without being interrupted?
Well, you could, but only if you're going to tell the truth and the whole truth in front of this case and come to the jury.
Why is a judge acting like an attorney, Judge? You're interrupting me saying what's fact is fact?
I'm just saying
Yes,
some shenanigans
yes,
are going
son.
down in this courtroom, and I want things to go right today.
Yes, son, you're right. This judge is acting like his own attorney. That is terrible, and he'll be disbarred in a minute. But, son, continue on.
Thanks, Dad. What really pushed me over the edge to actually become an attorney is when you said I could be on the Law Beaters team. You said that I proved myself when I was locked in that woodshed and that the law was attacking me as a way to join the Law Beaters team.
That's right, son. Continue.
And so when you did that and allowed me to join the team, I thought, man, I could be in sequels, spin-off movies. This was great. Just like Brandi is going through that now. And so, Dad, I'm not upset that you're a judge and sometimes have ruled against me. I'm not upset that you've been tougher on me in these court cases than anybody. I'm just glad that you allowed me to join the team.
Thank you, son. Now let's call in your cousin, Bailiff Rusty.
Hold on a second here before we go any further. This case does not seem germane to the treatment that you have given your son, defense attorney Bubba. And if my name isn't Atticus Bullfinch and my son's name isn't Catfish Bullfinch, then I don't know what's going on in this court. You are perverting the justice. This is not what this trial is about. Listen, my son Catfish, he wasn't allowed to join the team. He had to strike out on his own. See, now being part of the team, you just don't become part of the team. You got to do your work. So if you're not going to you're going to make this germane to the case, I'll allow it to bring it in, but this is not germane to your disbarment proceedings.
It's me, Bailiff Rusty. That's good, Rusty. Swear yourself in. I solemnly swear with my hand on this Bible and my other hand on my that I will not lie. Thank you, Bailiff Rusty. Bailiff Rusty, do you want to talk about what it was like when you were finally allowed to join the law team? Yes, I would.
Your Honor,
I was in the courtroom.
Your Honor, Dad, I object. Your Honor, Dad, I object.
What do you mean by this?
No, not your Honor, Dad. My Honor, Dad. You go ahead, son. I'll sustain your objection no matter what. But let's hear what it is first. Your Honor, Dad. This has got nothing to do with this. The plain animus that has been against me in this court and where I have not gotten a fair shake. It's got nothing to do with anybody joining any team, Your Honor. I just haven't got a fair shake, Your Honor.
It's me, Bailiff Rusty. Not getting a fair shake. That reminds me of the way Prosecutor Catfish has been treating Brandi Barr all season long. He hasn't given her a fair shake. He's been attacking her, being mean to her. In fact, I would say, as a bailiff, that he has been prejudiced against her, and for him to not allow her to be on the team shows a sure sign of reckless legality.
Your Honor, Dad,
Thank you, Bailiff
they're
Rusty.
still trying to argue the case in front of Judge Bubba, not the case in front of you, Dad, Atticus Bullfinch.
All right.
Catfish. No, I'm the one. I'm the one. I'm the one knocking. You are the one on trial. Judge Bubba, you are the one on trial. I will knock. My knock is harder than your knock.
The case of should Brandi Barr be a member of the Ghost
No,
Leaders?
the case is your disbarment proceedings. And if you don't take this seriously, Judge Bubba, this is gonna go real bad for you. I'm gonna have Attorney Dusto Catfish gonna take you out and back and punch you in your soft part of your neck. No, you can't.
Bailiff Rusty, did you hear that violence against me? I did. I heard it. Bailiff Rusty, arrest him for making a threat of violence. I will. Put him up, or I'll fire this gun on you.
Bailiff Rusty, Bubba, you better put that gun down right now. I'm the judge in charge of this case. Ow! God's phone, he shot me. Dad. Oh, my God. Rusty, you killed my father. Bailiff Rusty.
Oh, my God.
I'm so glad I brought this knife into court. You take this, Bailiff Rusty.
It's me being stabbed. Order in this court. Wait, I'm being arrested. What's up, mate? Take these handcuffs off me. Oh, no. I'm going to jail.
I'm so glad Gladys showed up to take you away to jail.
Hey, sugar, it's me, stenographer Gladys.
I love you, darling. I love you, and I love little puppy catfish, whatever you call him. I love him.
Sweet baby
catfish. I want you and me and sweet baby catfish to be happy forever, even though he don't got a grandpappy no more.
Extra, read all about it. Courthouse burns down in flames.
Oh, wow. Catfish, everybody's dead. We're going to have to go into the rift. We're going to have to open the rift so we can get everybody back.
Well, I mean, depending on what color it is, we can get everybody back.
Atticus Bullfinch is dead. Your father?
Wow.
Bailiff Rusty's dead.
Bailiff Rusty's dead. But it did sound like there might have been a happy ending between Catfish and Gladys. And
we're going to have to go into the rift and stop that, too.
Sugar Baby Catfish. Wow.
Oh, my Lord.
Wow.
Catfish, this has been a very sad week because we heard that this is the end of Ash vs. Evil Dead. We're going out with a boom stick, as I like to say.
Yeah.
1 week from today, the final episode ever.
All right. And we will talk to you next week on Ash
versus
Evil Dead
versus
Bubba
at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube. Versus
Catfish CJG Man 67. Groovy, baby.